That will keep you calm, or else, Zeldris declared, taking his foot off the first Fairy King's chest, and the Fairy King turned demon rose, tears streaming down his face as his body adjusted to the commandment of repose. Droll watched quietly, feeling sorry for his friend, but relieved he was calmed down. Why? Why did you stop me? Gloxinia demanded to know, and Zeldris looked at him. Because I pitied you. He looked away. Your soul was on the verge of destruction from whatever enraged you, and you were too useful an asset to let go to waste. Zeldris began to walk off, spawning his wings. Follow me. Gloxinia couldn't even question the statement before Zeldris burst to where he sensed the fading darkness, and the two new commandments followed their new leader. Calmadios coughed blood. The effects of his own attack doubled back at him, overwhelmed his regeneration. To think his own power and prince would do him in. He laughed quietly to himself. Calmadios the piety! Zeldris landed, and Calmadios smiled at the younger prince. My lord, I'm glad you get to see a loyal demon on my deathbed, Calmadios said, and Zeldris kneeled before him, analyzing his damage. I can get you home. You can be saved. Peruna can do something about your... I have minutes left, my lord. It would not be worth the effort. Zeldris choked back tears, and Calmadios looked up into the sky. My lord, take my commandment. No, I cannot. Please, take it as my last request. I would be honored if my borrowed power went to you. Zeldris went quiet, but cast a spell to free the commandment from his soldier's body. Zeldris absorbed piety, and it melded with him quickly, and Calmadios smiled. Thank you, my lord. It was an honor serving you. It was an honor to lead you, Zeldris said, choking back tears as he dropped to a knee once more. When he rose, Calmadios was dead. Droll and Gloxinia arrived, and Zeldris knew what he had to do. He knew who caused all this suffering for his people. He knew the person who caused his brother to slay his own kind. Repose. Call your goddess friend, alone, 10 miles south of the Lake of Salisbury. I know there was a battle there. Patience summoned Meliodas to Megadoza. Both former kings wanted to argue, but simply obeyed their new leader's command. Glox wants to meet you south of Salisbury? That's nowhere near the Fairy King's forest, Meliodas said, grabbing his blade and putting it over his shoulder. It's fine. Gloxia likely wants to restore the plant life there after the last battle between the demons and giants, and he could use my help, Elizabeth said, spreading her wings and getting ready to fly. Alright, see you later. Me and Droll will be sparring at Megadozer, so don't hesitate to join us later. Meliodas spawned his own wings and got ready to head off. As if Gloxia and I could keep up with you titans in combat. Meliodas chuckled and transformed, waving to his love. If you say so. See you later, Ellie. See you later, Meliodas. Elizabeth flew south, stirring up her magic to make sure she was ready for a lot of work. As she passed Lake Salisbury, she tried to sense Gloxinia's magic, and she quickly locked on. But it felt off. The magic felt tainted, not the pure nature magic of the fairies. It felt like Meliodas. It felt demonic. She doubled her speed and landed in the barren wasteland left of conflict between the demons and the giants. She found Gloxinia floating there, a sad smile on his face. Gloxy, what happened? She got close enough to see the marking that adorned his chest and the darkness that clouded his eyes. Gloxinia, no! I'm sorry, Elizabeth. I truly am, Gloxinia said, and Elizabeth was confused. No, sorry for what? What happened? The goddess Elizabeth. Elizabeth had never heard this voice before, but it sounded similar to someone she knew all too well. The massive dark magic that came from behind her made it all too obvious who had just said her name. You're him, aren't you? Meliodas' brother. Zeldris, Elizabeth said, her eyes beginning to glow. No denial was voiced. What did you do to Gloxinia? She demanded to know, turning to see a flat-faced Zeldris. I stopped him from slaughtering more innocents. Elizabeth's power began to flare, earning no reaction from Zeldris. You're lying, she declared, and Zeldris raised an eyebrow. Am I? Repose? He's not. Elizabeth shuddered and turned to Gloxinia. What? She questioned. I would like to thank you for saving both purity and reticence, Zeldris said calmly, maintaining an even tone. They are valuable warriors, and if you have already stolen one from us personally and are responsible for 3, I'm glad you're beginning to deliver reparations. What do you mean? Confusion was ripping through Elizabeth as Zeldris looked down on her from the sky. Your capture is what started the Holy War, when Meliodas the Love slaughtered the original Repose and Patience in the name of love for a goddess, Zeldris offered, landing on the ground. To think the most loyal demon would fall for the bloody Ellie. I'm sorry Meliodas left you all, and I'm sad that he killed 2 of your own, Elizabeth said, and Zeldris stared at her. You know, your name inspired fear in all demons, the merciless goddess that slaughtered all those who opposed her. But suddenly, things changed. Zeldris walked forward. You unlocked a new power, one based in emotion, in the mind, not dissimilar to the criminal Gother. What are you talking about? Demons returning from the front lines, talking about how their hearts had changed. Some of the most loyal soldiers, now rebels, traitors. Zeldris offered, crossing his arms. Some even professed love for this supposed savior, the person who freed their soul from the darkness that clouded it. So tell me, were you training with them? Were they practice? Don't you dare! There's no way the most loyal soldier to the demon clan betrayed and slaughtered his own kind on a whim. He was cruel, wicked, merciless, but never an executioner of his own kin. So tell me, how many tries did it take? Were you lucky? No, you two had fought multiple times. Was it one suggestion? Two? Was your capture the final trigger? The last push for it to activate? How many magical strings did you have to pull to bend my brother's heart? Are you telling me that you think Meliodas' love for me is falsified? That I manipulated him? Elizabeth demanded to know, her magic flaring to the point that the area began to vibrate with pure raw power. Are you telling me that the first son of the Demon King betrayed his own brethren for his mortal enemy naturally? Zeldris snapped back, his own magic beginning to swell despite his initial intentions to stay calm. How dare you accuse me of doing such a thing to the man I love? How dare you steal my only brother away from me? The heavens and the earth rumbled in tandem with their power, before both beings settled themselves. I will bring my brother back. Zeldris placed a hand on his blade. No matter what. I won't let you or anyone take my love away from me, Elizabeth declared, raising her hands. No matter what. The two rushed in, and the battle began. Before we hop into this battle of the Children of the Gods, please do me a favor and leave who you think is going to win in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, hit that little notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Now, let's get into it. What's up, guys? I got the pencil here, and it is finally time for us to discuss a battle that will shake the heavens and the earth. On this very day, we discuss a battle between the descendants of the dark and light gods, those outcasted from their clan by their parents for their weakness in power or their weakness in heart. Today, we open the discussion on the battle between the first daughter of the supreme deity, the bloody Ellie, the goddess Elizabeth, versus the second son of the Demon King, the pious executioner, the demon Zeldris. Let's break this battle down into power, speed, and abilities. Starting off with power, both of these two are monsters in their respective world. Elizabeth is a menace in terms of raw power. She's the daughter of the supreme deity, and she carries a lot of weight with that. She's stated relative to beings like Ludishel, Mael, Demon Mark Meliodas. She's flat out stated by Nakaba to be either relative to or superior to the four archangels, and was apparently able to fight off a Meliodas in the past. And this Meliodas appeared to be in assault mode when they fought, even though we don't know the outcome of that fight. And honestly, it's a very weird thing, and I'm honestly surprised Nakaba didn't show us that fight. But that happened, and then of course we have her feats that we actually get to see on screen, which include her not only managing to hold off Tuandura, but with a little bit of help from two other archangels, actually defeating Tuandura, who were absolutely body-bagging multiple archangels before on their own. And then you have the more modern Elizabeth, who manages to survive Estarossa / Mael for a little while when he had absorbed upwards of 3 commandments, then going on 4, and then you have her feat against the mighty Demon King Zeldris in his first form, being able to leave some marks on him. She did scuff him up, she dragged him around through the air, and honestly caught him off guard, did some real damage to him. Those feats alone, despite being rather few, are extremely good for a character like her, and honestly put her on the upper echelon in terms of raw power in terms of the entire series. However, Zeldris is a menace himself too in terms of raw power. Showing up, he manages to absolutely outdo and dominate the entire assault force with just using Ominous Nebula, even in its weaker state, not to talk of his full power state. He goes on to fight in Afternoon Mael while extremely fatigued and lacking his commandment, doing very, very well. And then on top of that, he manages to take out the Hermit of Moments, which is one of the Demon King's constructs that he manages to do quite well against. In fact, one-shotting at the moment he actually activates Ominous Nebula and getting rid of it entirely. He also scales above the original demon. He scales relative to a full-wing single Spirit King from a distance, and honestly is a menace in terms of his own raw power. If you want to give Zeldris a little bit of street cred, he also manages to defeat his father, although it was in a mental realm. That's the only issue with that feat. However, enough of their raw power, let's hop into their speed. Elizabeth is actually like she's very weird speed wise, because at moment she's able to like blitz in front of Endura and then instantly hit both of them at once with these massive light attacks that she spawns out of nowhere. But then in another moment she's getting like one shot knocked down by Derriere. So it's weird. Like Goddess, and it doesn't even just stop with Goddess Elizabeth. Human Elizabeth is able to absolutely smack up the Demon King. Like, you know, he gets behind her, she instantly throws out the arc, throws him around a bit, and he can't even do anything about it. Meanwhile, that same Elizabeth got like smacked up by Chandler's cheeks. Like, it's a very Elizabeth super weird in speed. However, we're just gonna give her highest ends. She's able to blitz in front of Endura. We're able to blitz Ludishell, the Flash of all people. So extremely speedy. Honestly, if you really want to give her statements about being like stronger or as comparable to the 4 archangels as she is, and of course being scalable to prime demon mark Meliodas, and possibly even assault mode depending on how that fight went, she's actually very, very speedy. Like very speedy in terms of just raw combat speed, considering that she's able to scale above some of the fastest characters in the verse who are only beaten out by certain end of series characters, including herself, ironically enough. Like, that's the weird thing. Like, there's end of series Elizabeth and there's late series Elizabeth, and there's also prime Elizabeth. But to be fair, we're going to be acting like all these Elizabeth are sort of one, and we're going to be taking all their feats and stacking them on top of each other, obviously, or else it gets a bit too complicated trying to like root out a prime Elizabeth. Actually, forget what I said about a second ago. They're all the same, basically. We're gonna just go with the assumption that every time Elizabeth reincarnates, it's just her same base power. She doesn't get stronger, she doesn't get faster. None of that's the same. You can argue differently, ironically enough, considering how she scales to a Demon King Zeldris versus a Demon King of the 3,000 years past. But that's neither here nor there. We're just gonna act on the assumption that these are all the same Elizabeth, and Elizabeth in general is just speedy when actually not being used as a damsel in distress. I don't know why. Well, that's a lie. I know exactly why. But still, in terms of her highest speed and what a lot of her statements imply, she should very much be extremely fast. Like, literally one of the fastest characters in the series up until, like, the end of series where things get really crazy speed-wise thanks to the Prime Demon King fight, which she unfortunately doesn't participate in, so she doesn't really have any feats there. Zeldris is also pretty speedy, and, like, there's some weird arguments you can make for Zeldris' speed, right? Because while fatigued and missing a commandment, he was able to fight on par with an afternoon Mael, and even blitz the man the moment he got a little bit of determination up in him. To be fair, Mael was also fatigued, and to be fair, it was also afternoon, but still a very solid speed feat. Zeldris is also stated to have the fastest sword in the demon realm. Like, if you want to, you can go wild with that statement, or you can go stupid wild with that statement, because, like, the Demon King's a sword wielder, and if Zeldris has a faster blade than him, I don't know what to say. No, but actually that probably is only referring to like Meliodas. And even still, that's a very good feat. Like, if he's actually faster than his brother, and like you can sort of corroborate this with King's statement that his movements are better than the captain, but at the same time, the highest Meliodas that King had seen was not a prime Meliodas. It was really just an assault mode post-resurrection Meliodas, who is confirmed to get stronger right after that fight. So King isn't really a reliable frame of reference. And to be fair, we don't know if Ludishell's a reliable frame of reference, considering he's talking about like a rumor, essentially. Zeldris is known to have it. And I think maybe King's State was meant to corroborate that, but you can argue either here nor there. You could really highball Zeldris with that. You could literally just be like, well, no. The ultimate highball for Zeldris is showing him absolutely blitzing and dominating his father. That's what you really want to do. But of course, that's Mindscape. While in terms of actual statements, you could argue his like relative to superiority to his older brother at his peak in terms of fastest blades in the demon realm. And on top of that, in his peak, he obviously has Omnis Nebula, which is really, really speedy, to the point where it just completely surpasses a Grace, while Zeldris doesn't even have any amp himself outside the Demon King's power. Doesn't have a commandment, and he's surpassing the divine territory of the Grace Flash. So really, really speedy overall. That leaves us with their abilities, and this is where both characters really, really shine. So Elizabeth is a goddess, and that means she has access to arc magic, which is light particles that she is actually one of the, if not flat out, the strongest user of it outside her mother. She's able to wield light particles in multiple different ways, on top of just simply manifesting them out as things like arc, and or using them in ways to form other attacks. And these arc particles happen to be super effective on the Demon Clan, as the arc particles naturally break down the darkness particles that Demon Clan members produce. She's also a goddess, so she has a big old pair of wings on her back that she can use to fly. On top of that, she's actually a very powerful telepath, being able to speak directly to people's hearts and make them want to leave a fight, even if it's completely against their will. However, this hasn't been shown on anyone actually relative to Elizabeth. It's only been shown to work on people who are drastically inferior to her in terms of raw power. Then we get into Elizabeth's specific techniques, which are usually made up of arc magic, and this begins with Let There Be Light. It is a gigantic drill-shaped construct that bores into people and rips out all the darkness that possesses them. and will actually destroy the darkness that lies within them. This is an extremely powerful attack that managed to hold off 2 Endura at the same time, and with a little bit extra boost, managed to absolutely destroy the Dark Transformation, which specifically rips out the darkness of a demon's soul and is considered their most advanced, powerful state. Then she has the Passion of Jonah, where she creates a gigantic whale of light particles, which absolutely swallows whatever gets eaten by it. Like, it just swallows it, dives into the ground, and pretty much explodes. Okay, it doesn't actually explode, it really just dissipates into more light particles, but still, it's a very big and very powerful attack. Then she has Invigorate, where she can use to instantly restore and heal the power of her target. And the thing is, she could use this on herself. She can complement her goddess healing with this ability, as she uses it a lot in her human form to heal off whatever little injury she has on herself and others. And of course, she has her basic goddess regeneration that every single goddess has access to. Then she also has a spell that we never actually get to see her use, which is the time spell that Gloxinia and Droll use to send somebody to the past, or specifically send their soul to the past to inhabit another body. Probably the body of the caster, at least, going off of what happened with Droll and Gloxinia and King and Diane. Zeldris is no slouch in his ability department either. Being the highest level demon, that means he has high tier regeneration. He has the access to the power of darkness, which he can use to make constructs, wings, weapons, whatever he really needs. He also has the ability of flight, via the wings, quite obviously. And then he has soul stealing, which he can do at a distance or with a quick little touch. And on top of that, to top it all off, he can sense you from very, very far away. And also he has really strong telepathy, able to broadcast his thoughts over all of Britannia at once. Then, considering this is a prime Zeldris, he would have access to piety, which would be the commandment that completely allows him to take complete control of a person once they turn their back on him. Just in general, like, you turn around, he knocks you around. If your back is bared to Zeldris after you were facing him, guess what? You're hypnotized now. Bada bing, bada boo. He also has access to the Hellblaze, which is the dark flame of the demon clan that can negate an immortal regeneration, and on top of that, he can inflict curses with it, essentially knocking people into comas as long as he hits them with the Hellblaze. Then, on top of that, he has the Asari, which is a gigantic dark lightning bolt that he can sort of just spawn out of a portal after raising his blade into the sky, pretty easily. And then, on top of that, he has access to the Demon King's power, which negates all magic used against him. Like, all of it. Even according to both him and Mael, the strongest magical attack will not work on him. This is shown when the Demon King's power even holds up against the Demon King in Meliodas' body, and he can't do anything. Like, the Demon King literally has to rip the power away from Zeldris in order to make sure that he can actually take some damage. Then he also has access to sealing, which he can just do on a whim. Like, he can seal you in darkness for however long he really wants to, and it doesn't really matter if he himself is sealed away or if he loses all his magic. The seal itself will still maintain its strength. And that's just like entire body sealing. He can also seal away someone's magic by hitting them. This appears to be another aspect of the Demon King's power. Then he has Omnis Nebula, which is a swirling vortex of darkness which sucks everything into it, cuts it to ribbons, and if it lives the first few cuts, it throws it back out, only to suck it back in. It only attracts living matter, and is extremely dangerous, and essentially makes it that Zeldris doesn't have to react anymore, as the darkness is spinning so fast in such a concentrated area around him that manages to blow other things back. This was actually so powerful that it managed to not only hold back the one and damage him a little bit, but it even just straight up pushed back the one until Escanor brought out that final little push of juice that managed to break on through it. And this is the same technique he used to absolutely shred his father. But once again, it was a mental version of his father. It wasn't his actual father. So still not as impressive as it could be. Finally, he has Endura, which, if need be, he could transform into by sacrificing 6 of his 7 hearts. However, he's very unlikely to do that. It's the last resort, and basically once Zeldris does that, Zeldris is dead. So it's a high risk, high reward. Zeldris technically still loses the fight though. I mean, technically an Endura Zeldris is still Zeldris, but Zeldris himself, the conscious being, is gone. However, this still is a transformation that provides an insane amp, which is very, very nice. But enough of that. Enough of discussing their abilities, enough discussing all that. Let's hop into the battle itself. So, I don't know if any of y'all play Pokemon, but there's a thing we like to call a mixed attacker, and Seven Deadly Sins is full of it. These mixed attackers are known to attack both on the physical side and the special side. In Seven Deadly Sins' case, that would be the physical side and the magic side. And you have a ton of mixed attackers. You have Meliodas, you have King, you have Escanor, you even got Bon in certain cases. You got people who are fantastic mixed attackers. They can attack you on both sides and it'll hurt regardless. But of course, then you have some special non-mixed attackers, people who specialize physically or specialize magically. Some of your magic specific people are your Gother and your Gother again and your Merlins. Then you have some people who are purely physical, who are like your Kusaks and such. Like, they have some magical abilities, but they don't really use them that often. They leave that more to the mages. And the thing is, Elizabeth falls in the latter category. She's not a mixed attacker. In fact, I don't think we've ever actually seen Elizabeth punch something, or kick something, or do anything that didn't involve magic. Even her big old slap to Meliodas that we all joke about is still a magic feat, because she just hits him with a gigantic arc spear. She doesn't actually smack him with her hand. He just gets hit by a gigantic ball of magic. And the thing about Zeldris is that he's a mixed attacker. But not only is he a mixed attacker, but he's a mixed attacker that's completely immune to one side of the spectrum. And that happens to be the spectrum that Elizabeth specializes in. Thanks to the Demon King's power, Zeldris absolutely negs Elizabeth. Like, one of the worst matchups in the entire series outside of maybe Merlin versus Zeldris. And the thing is, you can very easily argue that Elizabeth is way stronger. Through pure narrative alone, you can take a look at Elizabeth being able to damage a Demon King first form Zeldris at all, which is basically Zeldris plus 10 commandments, who is obviously way stronger than a Zeldris without 10 commandments. But the thing is, she can't do anything to him. Zeldris would literally just be able to stand there and she could fire off everything and not do anything. And thing is, thanks to Zeldris having piety and Elizabeth never actually having stated to get the blessings from the supreme deity or anything like that, and not having any graces, piety is for once an actual legitimate threat, because if Elizabeth ever turns her back, bada bing bada boom, hypnotism, and Zeldris has won. And to be fair, you can easily argue more consistently Elizabeth has both the power and the speed advantage. I mean, you could do some weird arguments with Zeldris and speed, especially with Ominous Nebula at its final stages, and like how it's very strange on how you want to scale the Hermit of Moments to things like the rest of the cast. But even then, what is she going to do with that power and speed? Like, drown him? Like, I don't see what she's going to be able to do anything, because she lacks the physical ability to defeat someone like Zeldris. Especially considering Zeldris can just keep her out. Another thing that we didn't really mention was, like, Elizabeth is kind of fragile. Like, all around, pretty darn fragile. Like, was about to die to lightning, almost died to a rock. Almost died. Well, she didn't die, but she got one shot by Derriere. In base, by the way. This is a demon mark Derriere. She also got, like, her head sliced open by some channel's cheeks. But let me stop moving around. Like, Elizabeth is actually way more durable than that. In all those moments, you could literally just argue she was caught off guard, or rather wasn't at full power, because you can see in the fight with Derriere, well, not really a fight, in the one shot with Derriere, she gets punched once and knocked out. That's mainly because she was, like, trying to not fight Derriere at that point, because she was in full pacifist mode, and she obviously is able to hold off Endura. You know, I'm just messing around. But the thing is, what is Elizabeth supposed to do against Ominous Nebula? Like, actually, what is she really supposed to do? You could argue that she'd be able to... Actually, I don't know. Could she really walk through it? The one Escanor couldn't just walk through Ominous Nebula once he got too close. She may be able to survive the outer layers of it. But honestly, by the time she gets in close, she's going to be taking some serious damage. And I don't see her popping it. I think she's just going to wear herself out eventually. And that's the thing. I don't think Zeldris is going to win this battle in, like, the short term. I think this would definitely be a long, dragged out battle, but it'd only be a long, dragged out battle in, like, Elizabeth's sense, because she'd be trying everything to harm Zeldris, but the main ingredient she needs, which is, like, hitting the man, is physically impossible for her, because she's physically weak. Like, I don't think we've ever seen Elizabeth punch something. Did she? Did she punch something? See, no, my mind's just flashing back to the slap that she gave Meliodas, but once again, that was pure magic, and we know arc magic is magic. Like, you've seen Ludishel try to use his magic on Zeldris, and it just did nothing to him. He literally just stood there. That's the thing. With the Demon King's power, Zeldris is arguably the hardest counter to Elizabeth that one could really imagine. Because since Elizabeth is so reliant on magic, just like Merlin, they don't have an answer. Elizabeth specifically does not have an answer to deal with someone like Zeldris. And I could very easily see Zeldris just wearing her down. Ominous Nebula takes no stamina from him. He could literally just stand there, eventually wear her down. You could definitely argue her durability should be high enough for her to take a couple hits. But I think the main thing that comes down to it is longevity. What's more likely to happen? Especially considering the fact that here's how I see the battle going. Straight up. I can see Zeldris looking at Elizabeth and being like, darn, she fought my brother. Let me not hold back. Like, the thing is, Zeldris, despite him stating that, oh, I treat everyone seriously, he was holding back a little bit. Like, he entertained the idea of sword fighting Ludishel until he was like, you know what, forget it, Ominous Nebula. But I could see Zeldris knowing all the things that Elizabeth has done, being known as the Bloody Ellie, being known as capable of fighting his brother, and apparently doing something to him to the point where Meliodas is like, don't get caught off guard by Elizabeth. I could definitely see Zeldris instantly going, Ominous Nebula, Demon King's power, on all the way, and just standing there, and slowly Elizabeth's gonna die. Like, the best I can give Elizabeth is a stalemate. because you could argue that her durability should be high enough that she shouldn't die to Zeldris, and Zeldris can't be touched by her. Like, it's a weird thing. Like, these two cancel each other out, because you can very easily argue Elizabeth has both the higher AP and the higher speed. But neither of those things do anything when she can't do anything with it. She doesn't have a physical attack that she could just overwhelm Zeldris with. That's the main thing you need to overwhelm someone like Zeldris. You have to physically outdo him. Magic is pointless against him, and that's all Elizabeth has. So honestly, I give this battle to Zeldris like 7. I'll be real with you, 9 out of 10 times. Like, what is Elizabeth really gonna do? How do you expect Elizabeth to win? That's what I need. I need a win condition for Elizabeth, because the only thing I've ever seen Elizabeth favor is that she could somehow surpass the Demon King's power. However, due to the fact that the Demon King himself in Meliodas' body couldn't surpass his own power, I highly doubt that Elizabeth, anything she has, is going to really do it. And you can even see it. The moment the Demon King got the ruler back, fight was over for Elizabeth. She sat down on the sidelines and was like, you know what? I'm done. You know what? I'll just go over here. I'll get struck by lightning a little bit to raise the stakes. Like, I'll do that instead. I won't worry about anything else. And that's the tough nuts. Like, everything else works out for Elizabeth. She has arguably the higher speed. She arguably has superior durability, even though that's kind of wonky. That's the thing. We never actually see Elizabeth get hit that often. And it's just weird. Like, you never really get to see. Even Gloxinia gets hit more. King and Gloxinia both, and I think about it, get smacked up more than Elizabeth. And they're all supposed to be like zero physical strength fighters. But the thing is, Elizabeth, when she has nothing on the table that can really take out Zeldris, and Zeldris has every single tool in the book to just completely stand there and neg Elizabeth, what do you want Elizabeth to do? And worst comes to worst, Elizabeth turns around and runs. To be fair, she should know about piety. I feel like that may be known, but I don't think, unless like I'm using a prime goddess Elizabeth with a future Elizabeth's memories, I don't think she should even know about Zeldris having piety, because Zeldris sort of got that out of nowhere. Like, I made that intro up, but I don't know when Zeldris got piety, because he wasn't piety at the time of the Holy War, and the Holy War ended like a few days after the time of that fight, I do believe. That time of that flashback, I'm pretty sure the Holy War ended not long after that, because you're only going to become commandments that get sealed away. So yeah, I'm not sure she would even know about piety. So she may just be like, wow, I need to get out of here, turns her back, boom, hypnotized, bada bing, Zeldris wins. Zeldris just wears her down with the Omnis Nebula until she can't regenerate anymore and just eventually dies out. Boom, Zeldris wins. Zeldris stands there. And I'm saying, like, stands there. No Omnis Nebula. No nothing. Like, legit stands there with the Demon King's power activated and lets Elizabeth tire herself out and then kills her. Like, there's nothing Elizabeth can do against Zeldris because of one ability and Elizabeth's own lack of physical feats. It's the same reason why I say Gothar's like, in terms of power, because he's a fantastic hacks-wise, but if you can ignore his hacks, Gothar is pretty much worthless by end of series scaling, or even late series scaling physically. Just doesn't have the feats, and neither does Elizabeth. However, that's what I think. I think Zeldris takes this pretty much the entire time. Like, you'd do some weird arguments for Elizabeth. Like, she should be able to outlast Zeldris, even though her stamina isn't ever really shown to be that high. Like, Zeldris, a menace, managed to do a lot with his amount of stamina. Elizabeth, I mean, not really. She doesn't do much. She has high magic reserves, but I don't think that translates directly to her stamina. So I don't know. There's not a picture in my mind where I see Elizabeth winning due to the Demon King's power. And here's the thing, I'll give you all Elizabeth fans this. If you remove the Demon King's power from this fight, Elizabeth washes Zeldris. Instantly, let there be light and let there be dead Zeldris. Like, that's it. She'd Arrow of Salvation Zeldris out of existence real quick. Higher AP, higher speed. But due to the whole existence of Omnis Nebula with a little bit, well, not really Omnis Nebula, due to the Demon King's power, Zeldris next. And that's it. I can 100% agree that in general terms, Elizabeth is stronger and faster than Zeldris, given her more consistent scaling for being faster, or not really being faster, but being relative. That's a weird thing. No, she manages to fight Assault Mode Meliodas apparently sometime in the past. Even if he was off guard, even if he was suppressed, that's still a better feat than Zeldris has. Unless you want to include the Demon King one. But even then, that's weird. So that's it for now. Honestly, once the movie drops and we see where Zeldris scales then we may redo this battle. We may just give it a quick run back, a real quick run back. Because if Zeldris gets relative to the Supreme Deity, then, well, what can I say? All of Elizabeth's power boost kind of, all of her advantages just really disappear then, and Omnis Nebula's really putting in some work. But that's neither here nor there. Those are my thoughts on this battle. Please tell me what you think in the comment section down below. Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think I'm crazy? Do you think Elizabeth can somehow win this, even though I don't think she can? Do you think differently? Please tell me in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is that guy with the pencil, writing off.